an administrator at the Synchromysticism forum, which I only discovered recently. There's, aside from all the blogs, there is a very active forum where people are just dropping information and following different breadcrumbs. And I only discovered it recently. It was actually somewhat intimidating to jump into it, but it looks like an incredible resource. She's in there. We have Tommy Fulks, Kevin Halcott, both from the Sinkhole, who they also have their own blogs. Kyle Hunt, who I think you've had on your show. That's right. From Star Theory. I'm just going in alphabetical order here. Sibyl Hunter. This woman is amazing. I actually, of all the people in here, I have a few big names in the book, but she's relatively unknown, and her piece I just thought was the best piece to start it off. It was so well written and even-handed, and again, there's a few things that she says in there which I pretty strongly disagree with, maybe some interpretations, but just really, really good. I think she's a natural, and I think we're going to hear a lot more from her. Stefan Jablonski, who's also from the Sinkhole. Jeremy, who writes under the name Violator at the Stygian Port, a pretty popular blog. Andras Jones, who does the show Radio 8 Ball, which is basically it was a live show. It was a radio show and then a live show about synchronicity. And they're looking to actually develop it into a TV program. He's working with some guys on the West Coast about making a TV show out of it, which should be pretty interesting. We have Crystal Canar, who does a blog, Constellation Contemplation, very into astrology, showing how that all ties in. John Kidd, who does Accidental Alchemist. Jake Kotze, who we've been talking about. Neil Kramer, who I know you've had on your show. Rammer Martinez, who's a poet and an illustrator. And I liked the idea of putting some poetry in the book because, to me, if we're looking at the universe as a sort of artistic construct, well then, who better to find meaning in the mundane than poets? We also have Justin Morgan, who is an incredible artist. I would like to actually talk a little more about Justin. Maybe we can do this in the second hour. Sure. He designed the cover for us, and he wrote a piece which is his own explorations of mindscapes and like these almost psychedelic meditation mindscapes and what he's discovered there. This guy's incredible. We have Will Morgan, one of my favorite writers from the Sinkhole. He also does a few shots to Shaman. Christopher Myers, who does Mercury's Messenger. He deals with the more of the magic side of things. Eunice No, who started a new blog, The Mask of God, which is basically like the Sinkhole. It's a collection of sync writers, which I myself take part in. It's been a wonderful experience doing that with them, and I thank Eunice for starting it. Jennifer Palmer from Reality Sandwich. Jim Sanders, who you mentioned earlier. He's an amazing filmmaker from Canada who works with Jake and guys at the Sinkhole, and he does a chapter about ayahuasca. And we have Michael Schacht, who does a blog called Gosporn, which delves somewhat into the seemingly separate sexuality and religious, what we think of as a dichotomy between the two, but actually showing that they're very much related, and that that we should not be ashamed of sexuality while we're searching for higher consciousness or spirituality. That spirituality and sexuality go hand in hand, and I thank Michael for that. We have Tu Ray, who does the Patternist and also writes at the Sinkhole. And then we have Steve Willner, Labyrinth of the Psychonaut. So I don't know if that was just a quick as I could do rundown.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. Good job. There's a lot of, as we said, 26 authors in there, and I think it's an excellent, compilation, if you will. And was it difficult? Just a final question before we wrap things up for the first hour. Was it difficult to edit this in any way, or did you merely put them in the right order as you saw it, Alan? How did you do that?
It was harder than I thought it would be, but it was it was really good. I mean, listen, it was a ton of work, so worth it, because I'm just so happy to get all these guys have their work out there. As I said at the beginning, I really respect these guys. I might not agree with everybody, and is there one person on the planet that you can think of that you just completely agree with?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, so, but I just respect the hell out of these guys, and I'm so happy to have them in. And there was a few guys that I didn't expect that they would say yes, and I was really happy to have them included. For me, it was just a labor of love. So I'm really happy to put it out. And as far as the editing or the compilation goes, don't worry about it. It was, that's what happens. I do want to quickly throw out, we've had a pretty strong reaction to this so far. And I've had people contacting me saying, why didn't you have this person in the book? Or, hey, I wish I was in the book. Why didn't you contact me?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, I don't have contact information for everyone. And plus, there are so many people delving into so many interesting subjects. There's no way I could, if I made a list of everyone who I'd want to hear their opinion on something, it would be a mile long.
Sure.
But I encourage everyone, send suggestions. We have talked about possibly doing a volume 2. I'm going to hesitantly say I think I'm down for doing it. But it was such a wonderful experience. I think I would. So if people want to contact me, they can contact us. We have a Facebook page for the Sync Book. We have a website, thesyncbook.com. People can contact us, give us suggestions. I give no promises about a time frame for doing a second volume, but I'd like people to reach out to us and communicate, and if nothing else, just keep sharing ideas. But I had a few disappointments of people who weren't in the book. I had sent an email to this guy Henrik. I don't know if you know him, and I was curious to get his take on things, but maybe we can convince him to be in the second one.
Oh, really? Is that how it goes, huh?
No, listen,
well, we're here now, Alan, and we're doing it, so that's. I think it's pretty good. Yeah, thanks.
No. I'm pulling your leg on one. But at the same time, it's interesting to me is you interview all these people and just sort of we hear what the audience has to say. But I hope at some point you'll put out some, I'm just always curious to know what you must think of these things.
Oh yeah, well it's brewing in there, Alan. It's brewing. No, but it's true. It's I'm fortunate enough to be in a situation where I can talk with as you've done for the book here, with a lot of these people, a lot about their ideas obviously, and that's what I felt at first hand as well when I heard about the book and the project starting up and all that. I was like, all right, I really want to do like a radio show, at least obviously one talk about the book, but maybe even a series, and actually we might do that after this as well, invite some of the other names here that we've talked about that we haven't had on the program yet, and run through a little bit more in detail and give them a little bit of space on this as well. And that's how I see my role, I guess, if you will, then at this point in this, and maybe not that much of an addition, but it will come, I think. Yeah.
All right. Listen, I think that's a great idea, because there are, like I said, I've been so hesitant to speak for other people, but there are so many amazing authors in this, and
You're right.
And I hope everyone gets a chance to get their voice out there. So.
Absolutely. And of course, then we want to say this here at the end of the first hour. Get the Sync Book at thesyncbook.com. This is a really good compilation, and I highly recommend it as a kind of a, as we talked about in the beginning, as a hands-down first, interaction with the idea of synchronicity, synchromysticism, whatever you want to call it, and just this idea of looking at reality in a little bit of a different way. And this might be good for people who are kind of, into this kind of subject matter, both from a conspiratorial point of view, but also maybe from a more spiritual point of view, because I think there is a richness here to tap into, which is, just beginning to explore, basically. So there's just so much to it, and I think that this opens up the area so much more. So again, well done, Alan, and we will obviously, before we do that too, I want to mention your personal website, allthehappycreatures.com. That contains some of your novels and some of your earlier work, correct? Tell us briefly about that.
Sure. I mean, you can get there. You can get access to my blog, which is the blog deals most with synchronicity. There's also, as you mentioned, a book on there called Look at All the Happy Creatures, which was it's basically like a Animal Farm 1984 conspiracy nightmare novel, which is maybe sounds contradictory to what I've been talking about, but was all about this idea of TV as control and media as a control system. I still think that's an incredibly valid point of view, as it, with the Sync book, was just trying to take it a step further and show that there's still something higher. And if we can get through all the garbage and the propaganda, we can see something magical. It's just a very slow trudge through all that stuff. So the book is much more conspiracy-minded, showing some of the dark sides of media. But then, as I was writing it, is when I started to discover a lot of things about synchronicity, and I already had different cosmic consciousness opinions that were worked into it. But it's sort of, the book takes on a very strange psychedelic twist. So you can check that out. But if we also have interviews with, I've done some interviews with some of the authors of the Sync book. You can find those podcasts on there, and I encourage everyone to go to thesyncbook.com and click on the authors tab, and there you'll find a portal, just a list of links for all 26 authors, their main websites, and I encourage everyone to please check these guys out, because these are amazing thinkers, and just start diving into some of their material.
You bet. Check out the page and link the links there to all the authors, because there's a whole lot more there for everybody to dive into. But stay with us then, Alan. We'll continue here with the second hour or second segment in a little bit. First part of the second hour, we discuss how the Force is using media to communicate messages on a large scale. The cinema is the new template, and mythology is bleeding out everywhere in movies. We talk about using what Alan calls sync goggles, as we are being spoken to everywhere all the time, yet we forget to pay attention. We philosophize about what is magical on Earth and how we can manifest things instantly in the 3D world. We talk about the importance of the physical realm and incorporating higher concepts into our experience without being an escapist. Alan discusses synchronicity, numbers, and the alphabet, including coding and hidden ciphers. And he says that there are no rules which apply to interpreting or mapping out the connections. Later we explore the idea of archetypes and remaining unique while the collective conscious is seeping in. Alan also brings up Jay Kotze's 9/11 Stargate idea and time waves. We close on the idea that magic is in no way gone from our lives. We can find it everywhere, we just have to know where and how to look. Don't miss the second hour or any of our previous programs. Subscribe to redicecreations.com and get full access to the members area. It's only €5 per month. We have a 3-month recurring subscription option available. You can also subscribe using a one-time option stretching from 3 months up to 2 years in case you don't have a PayPal account. All details are on redicecreations.com. Just click on subscribe or members to read more. Next up on Red Ice Radio, we have Nick Bryant, Gilad Atzmon, Ralph Ellis, David Crow, Peter Duesberg, Colin Andrews, Tony Bushby, Peter Dale Scott, Frank O'Collins, Carl Munk, plus many more. Keep listening to Red Ice Radio, and right now then again for our members, we're going to continue with the second hour with Alan Abbadessa. Thank you for staying with us.